Good evening. I'm calling to order the Columbia County Board of Commissioners November 4th, 2025 meeting to order. Asking Vice Chairman Couch to open us with the invocation.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this day and for all the many blessings that you bestow upon Columbia County. Dear Lord, tonight we pray for the citizens and country of Jamaica as they recover from such a horrendous storm. We ask that you would heal their land and their hearts. As we watch the election results come in this evening, help us to remember how thankful we are for the privilege of voting. While our opinions may differ, help us anchor our hearts in peace and trust in God's plan. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the October 21st, 2025 meeting in your packet. If you've had a chance to review them, I'll accept the motion to approve.
Chairman, I make a motion to accept them as presented.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Changes to the agenda?
I ask ready for your approval, Mr. Chairman.
It's approved. Seeing no special recognitions, straight to the consent agenda. Commissioners, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Each item on this agenda has been through the necessary committees and received the necessary votes to be placed on this agenda. So, meet with your approval, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept all of these items as presented.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. On to the debate. I believe Chairman Couch.
I make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-53 for property located at tax map 059A, parcel 011, to reduce the rear setback to 10 feet for a proposed storage structure subject to the condition enumerated in the October 16th, 2025 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Request for a variance from the 25-foot required rear property line setback is being reduced down to 10 feet if this is granted. They're looking to put a 900 square foot shop, as you can see in the red square there. They do have a lot of topo on their property. This is the only location that really works for their driveway to access that location.
Questions? Motion is second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries. See no legal matters or requests for review by committee. Public comments. Howard Johnson. State your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes and nice haircut.
Good evening, Howard Johnson, 252 Silver Maple Road. Polls are open for about another hour, but I reckon anybody who's tuned enough to be watching this meeting has already voted, and so I'm unlikely to really swing things. So buckle up, you're getting Howard Johnson not held back. I'm here once again to talk about the transition to a single county library system. I've been here many times to speak out against that. Mr. Johnson, I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me the other day. I have a better answer for you now than I did then about why I'm so opposed to this change. You see, libraries operate on economies of scale. A library doesn't go out and purchase a book if just one person wants to read it. They essentially, keep a look at the total demand for a book. So they're not looking to serve just an individual person. They're looking to have a collection full of books that many people are going to read. So if I want to read one individual book, in order for the library to have that on the shelves, there needs to be, 10 or 15 other people who also use the library who want to read that same book. As you can imagine, there's all sorts of different topics of books to be had, And I'm sure that everyone in here has a various amount of things that they're interested in and not a single individual topic. In order for the library to be able to serve everyone, it actually works better with more people involved, right? There's a greater chance that there's going to be that 10 to 15 people interested in the one niche topic I'm interested in if we allow more people to use the library. That's one reason that I think it's so important to remain a part of the Greater Clarks Hills Regional Library System, because that partnership with those more rural counties ensures that there are rural users of the library creating demand in order for our library to be able to serve the rural users of Columbia County better as well. Having that partnership increases the odds that the services that those types of people are going to be looking for at the library will be made available. It's just a matter of increasing accessibility to more people. As you scale up, you can better serve more people. That said, I know you're unlikely to reverse course. I'm no fool knowing that I come up here asking you to change a decision you've already voted on. So moving forward, Thursday morning, there's going to be a meeting of the new library board for the single county system. That agenda, we're going to be seeing the constitution and bylaws for the new library board formed, as well as officers for that board elected. At this time, there's no representative from District 2 seated on that board, and so to have these changes pushed through before people from my district have had an opportunity to have their voice heard, I think is a problem. Regardless of who wins the race tonight, I don't think those decisions should be finalized until every citizen of the county and every user of the county library is represented on the board. So I'm going to ask you, Commissioner Malier, to consider tabling that discussion on Thursday until the board is fully formed. That's all I've got for tonight. Thank you.
Marcus Todd. Will please state your name and address for the record and take 5 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Marcus Todd, 6207 Max Court over in Harlem. So I'd like to respond to some accusations I heard made against the County Board of Commissioners for violations of free speech. I want to acknowledge that many people who might be thinking that this is fair accusations are doing so probably because they don't understand that the English language has some vulnerabilities when it comes to understanding certain words like freedom. Is an easy example that can explain this, the word love. We only have one word in English language, but in Greek you have philos, agape, eros. Distinct meanings, but we only have one word for it. So when people are saying, hey, we're violating freedom of speech, there's the question of what do you mean by freedom? So why is this important? One of the world's major religions says that their freedom of religion means that they have the right to tax non-believers. There are even subsects within this religion that believe that they have the right to enslave and even do horrible acts like rape against non-believers. But they actually make the legal argument that that is part of their freedom of religion. So again, it's a question of what does you mean by freedom? Do they have the right? Does their freedom mean that they have the right to impose upon other people something that they would harm? We have a problem in this country with our notion of free trade. We think that it means that our executives should have access to slave labor markets in other countries. As long as the slavery is not happening in the U.S., well, it should be okay. Some of these places that we're getting products from are so horrible that they have nets to stop people from committing suicide, right? Is it really free trade if we have slave labor? It comes from slave labor. So most people understand in America that freedom does not include the right to harm others, right? As I mentioned earlier, Georgia Code Title 16, Chapter 12, Article 3, Parts 2 and 3, recognizes that it is a harm to expose children to certain kinds of sexually explicit imagery, right? But there is a strange aberration. Section 16-12-104 just says all of these rules to protect children don't exist for libraries and schools that are funded by the state. this is why, I believe this is why the county made this step, in order to take the protections in state law for children and say, no, we're going to keep those in our libraries because we believe that it is harmful to children. All right, so I just want to remind us of our founding fathers. America is a land of freedom. We declared independence to uphold natural law and self-evident truths. President John Adams said the Constitution works only for a moral and religious people. So I would like for those who are trying to stand up for freedom of speech to accept the self-evident truth that children must be protected from harm, specifically the harm of exposure to sexually explicit material, and that any ideology or political movement that wants to expose these children is doing harm to them and thus is not freedom. Thank you very much.
Karen Parham, excuse me.
Hi, good evening. Karen Parham, 3421 Hilltop Trail. So Jim Steed recently said in an article that there are a lot of parents who would rather raise their kids and not have the library raise them or the government raise them. And I completely agree. That's exactly why the reshelving guidelines are so troubling, because they do the opposite of what he says he supports. These guidelines take decisions out of parents' hands and put them into the hands of politicians. When books written for kids are moved to the adult section simply because some people object to their content, that's not protecting anyone. That is censorship. And it also sends a message that the county doesn't trust parents to guide their own children. A couple years ago, our libraries displayed a sign that said, "Public libraries collect materials some may find objectionable. Concerned parents should vet materials based on their own family's values." That sign encouraged parents to be involved and take responsibility. But the commission and former library board members ordered librarians to take it down, calling it condescending. Personally, I find it far more condescending to suggest that parents can't be trusted to monitor their own kids in the library. The idea that the government must protect kids by hiding books assumes parents aren't capable of parenting, and that's insulting to every family in this community. I've also heard people defend these guidelines by comparing them to movie ratings, but that comparison doesn't hold up. Movie ratings are not created by the government. They're set by a committee funded and supported by the movie industry itself, not politicians. The government plays no role in deciding whether a movie is G, PG, or R. Likewise, most books have suggested age ranges. What the commission has done with these guidelines is essentially say, we don't agree with those professional ratings, so we'll change them ourselves. And that would be like the county deciding to rewrite movie ratings, changing a PG movie to an R, and then forcing every theater in Columbia County to treat it as rated R, but just in Columbia County. And that sounds crazy, because it is. That's the government overriding professional standards based on the personal beliefs of a few residents. Now, there are plenty of books for everyone in our library. Nobody is forced to read a book they don't like at the public library. The books aren't jumping off the shelves demanding to be read. If someone doesn't like a book, they should just put it back. Some of these folks have called themselves the silent majority. Well, I don't think they've been very silent. They've been pretty loud the past few years. But even if most residents agreed with the guidelines, and I don't think they do, that still wouldn't make them right. In a diverse county like ours, people are free to make decisions for their own families. The government has no business deciding what ideas everyone else can or cannot access. The right to receive information is a constitutional protection, and it applies to all of us, not just the views of the majority. What we need is leadership that upholds content-neutral standards and keeps the government out of the business of dictating what's on the shelves. Because once you start moving books based on viewpoint, it never stops with just one category. These folks made it clear at the last meeting that it won't stop with these guidelines because it was never about protecting children. They were never going to stop with one category because it's really about control and trying to erase stories, ideas, or people they don't like. It will never end. The urge to censor is an insatiable beast, and with these guidelines, you didn't just feed it, you gave it a cookie. And I don't think you're seeing the forest for the trees. When the government adopts the viewpoint of certain residents and then uses the levers of government to censor materials based on those views, it sets a dangerous precedent. It's a line this county should have never crossed. And I'm not a lawyer, but I do know this. None of the books in our libraries meet the legal definition of obscenity. And that distinction matters. If a book doesn't meet that very narrow legal test, then it's protected speech under the First Amendment. Just because some folks call it porn doesn't make it true. It's just a tactic to make it easier to justify censorship. Even calling the guidelines a moderate approach is very misleading, because deciding which viewpoints belong and which don't is, by definition, not neutral. True moderation is sticking with professional, content-neutral curation and letting all families decide for themselves what aligns with their values. This community deserves better than elected officials policing ideas on behalf of a few busybodies. Our library was never meant to be politicized, no matter how many conspiracies or moral panics some people cook up. Censorship is never the answer. So I'm asking you once again, please rescind the guidelines. Thank you.
Diane Jarrett?
Good evening. My name's Diane Jarrett, 3040 Otter Court in Martinez. I want to talk to you about something that's not on your agenda yet. I think it probably will be the next meeting or the meeting after. And that's this new zoning ordinance that's going to be addressed by the Planning Commission in a couple of days. My understanding, and it may be incorrect, and please correct me after I leave if I'm wrong, my understanding is this new zoning ordinance would permit any 2 acres in Columbia County to be rezoned for a data center. I have a lot of objections to that. Again, I may have misunderstood from what I read, but it's a concern. That would mean in Evans or Martinez, Grovetown or Harlem, there could suddenly be a data center on 2 acres. And of course, my next topic, which I've covered somewhat before, is the library. Even though I realize to a certain degree I'm talking to a brick wall. I firmly believe that parents need to decide what their individual child may or may not read, and that it is not the role of government at all. And I'm really disappointed that you all passed a set of guidelines to try to be that governing force that shouldn't have existed at all. It should be left to parents. Thank you so much for your time.
Jonathan McGass? Apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Everybody messes it up. You're good. Don't worry about it. John Migas, 1357 Waterston Drive, Evans. I have over 35 years of technology experience from military and federal service, and now the owner of a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. Before moving to Columbia County 3 years ago, I was a chief information officer on Capitol Hill and the chairperson of the legislative branch CIO Council. I have worked in, oversaw operations and maintenance, drafted federal legislation on the use of data centers. I am neither for nor opposed to the proposed data center in Appling. Today, as with you, I don't have the appropriate information to make an informed decision. Concerns remain, but I was welcome to see the Commission's statement dated 10/21/25. Closed-loop cooling systems must be non-negotiable. It's true, Georgia Power does have a rate freeze through 28. However, this does not include the storm or fuel costs being addressed next year, and they know potential increases in 29. Ironically, this is about the same time many ongoing statewide data center projects will be online. In my opinion, there will be rate increases. A single data center does not promote long-term job creation. On average, it takes about 125 employees to run a large hyperscale facility. Of course, construction would see a bump in the short term. So unless we're talking about multiple data centers, I suggest we temper job creation as a long-term benefit. Please indulge me as I refer to our friends in Northern Virginia. In 2008, Loudoun County Economic Development launched a marketing campaign to attract data centers. Today, they have a collection of 547 data centers with an additional 64 under construction. There has not been a day since 2008 without a facility under construction. Loudoun County alone is estimated to take in $895 million in tax revenue in FY25. That is even after a statewide sales abatement program, which was estimated at $732 million in '24. Undeniably, this is a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream for the Commonwealth of Virginia. However, most of the economic benefit derives from the construction phase, not annual operations. To admit revenue is a driving force behind this proposal, I caution, not let revenue alone inform your decision. Now appears Data Center Alley may be a victim of its own success. Dominion Energy, their version of Georgia Power, provides 20% of its supply to data centers. They recently requested the State Corporation Commission to approve a proposed 15% increase in '27 to pay for upgrades, inflation, and supply chain issues. So I ask, what is being put in place to ensure any data center construction in Columbia County is in the long-term best interest of all? I recommend you be transparent and proactive in your messaging. People fear change when they don't understand it. This is not just another Parker's Kitchen. This is a seismic shift in Columbia County. Quite frankly, I believe it should be on the ballot. Nonetheless, let's be honest. If we're open for business and want 5, 10, 20 data centers, just say it. Will this revenue permanently alleviate property tax, build new schools, improve our roads? Tell us the plan, because building one data center is foolish and short-sighted. Lastly, it's my understanding the ongoing assessments are in part being conducted by entities who stand to benefit from the very thing they're assessing. How do you expect the community to trust those results or trust you? I suggest the commission authorize an independent cohort of Columbia County residents with expertise in technology, engineering, commercial power, accounting, and the environment to provide an unbiased and publicly available assessment of the findings you receive. We have very intelligent and thoughtful residents who I believe would love to be involved. Tonight, I offer my services. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you.
Alexander Dixon.
Alexander Travis Dixon, 6160 Old Union Road, Harlem, Georgia, 30814. I don't want to say anything that people have already said on both sides of discussion of any of the discussions you want to pick, the data center, the library. Heavenly Father, please give me the words to say. Help me to please you with what I do and say. Help me to love you with all my heart and soul and mind. I think, my opinion, and this is as much for the people behind me as it is for the commission, I believe in my heart that whether you love Trump or whether you whether you hate Trump or no matter how you feel, we need to leave our politics behind, our national politics, our agendas, whatever those agendas are. We need to be about the business of loving one another. I don't know what that looks like. I don't have the answers, but I believe that no matter where you stand, whether you're a Christian or no matter what you believe in, that our community will be better if we spend more time listening to one another, honestly listening to another and compromising. I believe in free speech. The Nazis burned books. It was terrible. I also believe in the protection of children. And maybe the answer is to have some sort of committee put together by a commission of citizens who can volunteer to vet books. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I have my own opinions about them. I mean, the data center, we need a data center because we need to protect our information. We need to protect it from China. We can't say, not in my backyard. If everybody said not my backyard, the industrial revolution, the industrial competition with China, we got behind it because people said 50 years ago, not my backyard. You know, there's too much pollution, there's too much noise, there's too much whatever, and now we're complaining. If we make that an excuse for not allowing data centers, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, China will be eating our lunch, or pick a country, will be eating our lunch in national security. I don't support artificial intelligence. I don't like artificial intelligence, but it's coming, whether you like it or not. Electric cars are coming, and Jesus is coming, whether you believe in him or not. And also one more thing I wanted to say is that discernment is necessary, especially for the data center. I think maybe an option is to hold ongoing surprise inspections of the facility to make sure that whoever manages the facility in the future does not just make excuses and say, well, you know, it's not my problem. You know, I'm going to use all the electricity and all the water that I can use and all the whatever I can use. Also about the taxes, the chairman suggested that you could do away with taxes. I would say that knowing the human heart, it's hard to let go of a sure thing. So when you have money coming in from Microsoft and from property taxes, you could always say, hey, I always need more money. You know, what would keep you from holding on to the property taxes if that happens, or whoever replaces you? Like I said again, I don't have a whole lot of answers, and the older I get, the less answers I have. But I believe in the one who does have the answers, and by God's grace, I try to rely on him every day. I didn't write my speech. I'm literally just winging it. Okay, the library, we have to balance freedom and security. So we put up safeguards everywhere. This world isn't perfect. There is no perfect system. No matter whatever you do, you put locks on doors, people will break the locks on doors. You put ratings on movies. But one of the biggest problems in our differences is we don't agree upon what is fundamentally true. If anybody looks at explicit material for long enough, we have to protect ourselves from ourselves. Nobody likes to admit it, but we have to protect ourselves from ourselves. And if we look at explicit material long enough, we will become socially and mentally degraded and dysfunctional. And I don't think necessarily that, you know, censorship will lead to more censorship. I hear the lady who was speaking on this issue, and I feel strongly about it as well. I think one of the things that I need to learn is how to truly engage in dialogue with other people. And I know I'm reiterating myself because I'm just burning time. Anyway.
Thank you. Alan?
Alan Wyatt, Chairman of the Citizens for Open Governance and a resident of Appling in Georgia. I am here tonight to offer our response to your statement issued 2 weeks ago, wherein you referenced our organization. My remarks here may go past the 5-minute allotment, but I ask that you allow me to complete my statement in full, and then I will gladly give you all a copy. Earlier this year, the Columbia County Board of Commissioners foisted upon its citizens the largest project in Columbia County history, data center. This enormous project 2,000 acres, $12 billion industrial complex with over 9 million square feet under roof. It is a plant with a power demand that is 2 times that of Columbia County and Richmond County combined. It will also require 6.5 million gallons of water per day for cooling, a demand which is expected to rise significantly. Furthermore, this colossal industrial complex will be situated in the heart of rural Columbia County, county seat of Appling, the historic soul of the county. Additionally, the county currently holds a $30 million loan and a $59 million purchase agreement for the land, with final closing imminent. These massive real estate deals were inked 10 months ago. And all of this has occurred without any meaningful contributory public input. None of what I just said is in dispute. Yet, 2 weeks ago, the Board of Commissioners had the temerity to claim that this project is far from being a behemoth, despite the fact it is the very definition of it. The board also claimed that this project shows a commitment to sustainability that aligns with Vision 2035 to protect rural character, when in fact, Vision 2035 says that it calls for preserving rural character, not protecting it with a few shrubs and a scant buffer zone. Then there is the question of, is it a done deal? No end user been announced yet, no construction started, but a multi-million-dollar real estate deal is in the works. And, by the way, Georgia Power is frantically buying up land surrounding the data center for infrastructure. All of which suggests that, though it may not be officially a done deal, to the ordinary citizen getting a coffee at the Circle K on 221, it's a done deal. Then the Board of Commissioners stated that public input has been and will continue to be sought through updates. This Board of Commissioners believes that public input is secured by giving us all updates. Finally, it was claimed that we, a group of modest, concerned citizens, are misrepresenting the facts, undermining constructive dialogue, and conducting misinformation campaigns. However, despite this, we are very encouraged to note that the Board of Commissioners recognizes the passion that is in the community about this data center and continues to ask us direct engagement. And so, here we are, Commissioners, asking once again that you engage us. Not update us, but truly engage us. But let's be honest here. The power balance in this data center controversy is clearly and unequivocally in favor of you, the Board of Commissioners. For you have the organizational strength of a body that has exercised power in this county for over 150 years. You have the authority to rezone land and to attract development through the Development Authority. You have the backing of the developer, Trammell Crow Company, and their multi-million-dollar budget. And you have all the information, all the cards, and those NDAs to keep those cards from us. In contrast, the only thing we have is our capacity to strive to get our hands on as much information as possible, and then to offer our input. That's it. That's all we have. So, in the spirit of direct engagement, we submit the following. Over the past 2 years, $64 billion worth of U.S. data center projects have been stopped due to widespread community opposition across 24 different states. This resistance has elevated data centers to a national flashpoint, with residents opposing developments most notably in misplaced rural locations. Compared to the anticipated $15 billion in data center construction this year, $64 billion in blocked projects is 4 times greater. And that underscores the substantial scale of community resistance nationwide. Therefore, we suggest that if the Columbia County Data Center is all that the Board of Commissioners claims it is, then enact a 6-month moratorium and secure an independent study. The reason for the study that is needed is to address the legitimate concerns of your citizens. Concerns that are not crazy people talking, but concerns that are derived from the very real issues exposed by that $64 million worth of halted projects nationwide. They were halted for a reason. Such an independent study could utilize details from over 2,000 fully operational data centers to provide the clearest view yet of all the impacts. It would independently verify facts and draw well-reasoned conclusions from about the suitability of the Appling location and the likelihood of realizing the benefits claimed. This seems like a very reasonable act of due diligence and a judicious exercise of a local government's duty to its citizens. In this way, the sting of controversy can be removed, for it will create an independent process, minimizing the us versus them divide. It will incorporate public input alongside corporate perspectives, dispelling any accusations of one-sidedness. It will also foster collaboration and be mutually considered rather than adversarial. It will encourage informed discussions rather than public relations posturing. And it will keep the project truly under consideration by removing the threat of immediate commitment. In fact, it's a classic win-win. If the Columbia County Data Center project is truly a good fit for the county and its citizens, then the Board of Commissioners have nothing to fear, and the report will simply confirm that, and then we can withdraw our opposition in the secure knowledge that after a thorough examination, the project has passed muster. However, if the report finds that it is not beneficial to the county, then by agreeing to this independent study, the Board of Commissioners will have prevented a very grave error and served its citizens very well. Therefore, we implore that the Board of Commissioners meet with us to discuss a moratorium and an independent study. We have already identified several reputable, impartial organizations that are capable and willing to conduct a thorough evaluation of this project. Commissioners, we humbly ask for this because we genuinely believe that together we can act in the full light of transparency. Together we can operate in a genuine, under consideration atmosphere. And together we can explore all the benefits and all the drawbacks in full. And together we can work to generate a very accurate, independent report and, in harmony and contribution, work together to build the best run county in the nation to which we all aspire. That concludes the formal statement, but we'd like to finish with this. Tonight, our objective was to convince you that we are absolutely not those people you described in your statement 2 weeks ago. In fact, we believe we are the very opposite of what you described. We believe that we are seekers of truth and of constructive dialogue, and we desire nothing more than to be listened to and have our views considered. And it is in this spirit we request that you agree to meet with us, the Citizens for Open Governance, in a public, open meeting and soon, so that we can present to you thoroughly and professionally our serious concerns about the data center project and make a compelling case for why a moratorium and independent study is the right thing to do. To demonstrate our commitment to this goal, we would like to propose that before we leave tonight, we identify 2 commissioners and 2 members of our organization to work together to develop an appropriate agenda and rules for moderation for just such a meeting. Thank you.
Susan Warren.
Susan Warren, North Tubman Road, Appling. I'm also speaking in response to your October 21st board statement. You gave me some issues to reply to. The third issue you took exception to in the statement you called environmental scare tactics, such as fear of aquifer depreciation or unchecked water usage, and said any facility would use the county water supplies, not private wells, to avoid impacts on local farms and homes. What happened to that $80 million water project a developer would pay for that you mentioned? Then you said cooling systems would prioritize closed-loop designs for efficiency and minimal consumption, with commitments to sustain that align with our Vision 35 plan and for protecting rural character and promoting high-quality growth. Your next sentence included, the project will not compromise water table or electric grid as confirmed by ongoing assessments. I ask, whose assessments? You continue to say not a done deal, but turn around and promise us things which are not in your control once the sale of this property goes through, without the safeguards that you say you are now putting into the new zoning data centers. Too bad you didn't consider this before. So which is it? You have a deal with these conditions in place, or you're just blowing smoke to the citizens of this county? Then you say data centers bring substantial economic benefits, including millions of tax revenue, and fund homestead exemptions, potentially reduce or eliminate property taxes for residents, directly funding commitments to ease financial loads of families. Yet at one meeting, I believe you were asked if you would make it mandatory, I forget how that went, that these funds would be used for that alone. And you replied that the board would not commit to something that would require future boards to adhere to. I believe that's also what you expressed when you ignored the Vision 35 plan the county voted for. You went on to say utilities create high-paying jobs and technical construction and support services boost local economic output with nearly 5 million jobs. Leaders renewable energy integration to minimize environmental footprints. On September 30th, CNET's article said the price of electricity juiced by demand from power-hungry data centers is being passed on to residential customers. electric bills are rising around the U.S., but they're rising even more sharply in areas located near data centers. According to the investigation by Bloomberg, which also found that the costs are being passed on to home customers, an October 16th article by Grist reported the following. As data centers upend electric grids, the largest operator in the U.S. is facing down a revolt from state officials. A coalition of 11 governors has threatened to withdraw from the grid operator PJM. That's the one I spoke about last time. And in September, 11 of PJM's member states banded together in Philadelphia to demand a greater role in the grid's energy decisions, given rapidly rising costs faced by their constituents. A report from the Union of Concerned Scientists found that ratepayers in 7 of PJM's data center-friendly states were charged $4.4 billion for transmission upgrades data centers required to come online. Monitoring Analytics and the National Resource Defense Council have both suggested that PJM adopt a bring-your-own-generation systems, meaning data centers would be obligated to build their own sources of power up front rather than draining the grid. And speaking of environmental footprints, coal-burning plants across some states are either being brought back online or had scheduled shutdown dates stopped. Then you said we invite residents to engage directly with facts through our public resources like our webpage and upcoming meetings rather than relying on misinformation campaigns. Well, I guess you still don't recognize that what your citizens are doing is to supply the information and facts that you refuse to do. So I'll ask those who can attend this Thursday's Planning Committee meeting that will be held here at 6 o'clock to please show up. An agenda item is the new data center zoning regulations. I believe there may already be other data centers being discussed for our county. So even though this is too late to apply to the project under consideration now, it could be very important for the future. Also, the meeting of the newly appointed library board will meet in the Evans Library Classroom A at 9:30 a.m. on that morning. Thankfully, we won't be subjected to Austin Rhodes' misogynistic and crude remarks about the Savannah Riverkeeper or administrators in the other podunk counties around Columbia County. He won't be on the air until later in the day. What a great choice we made for the Regional Library Board, yes? Thank you.
Lines, please.
Columbia County's Comprehensive Plan Vision 2035 is a policy document that presents the community primary goals for achieving its vision for growth and development. This plan was originally completed in 2016 and has been updated through a stakeholder process in compliance with the rules of comprehensive planning established by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. In fact, I think you're in the process of updating it now. Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Lee Munns, and I reside at 6343 Harlem Grovetown Road. I want to address something that goes to the heart of responsible growth in our county, the clear and deliberate diversion away from our Vision 2035 plan and the consequences that follow, especially when it comes to how we manage rezoning, how we evaluate industrial projects, and how we protect our taxpayers. Vision 2035 wasn't created on a whim. It wasn't something thrown together casually. It was the county's roadmap, our roadmap, for how we wanted this community to look, to feel, and to function by the year 2035. It balanced industrial development with rural preservation. It outlined where neighborhoods should expand and where businesses should flourish, and where schools and infrastructure should be improved. It reflected public input and years of planning. But the rezoning decisions being made are not deviations around the edges. They are not minor adjustments. They represent a complete departure from the Vision 2035 plan, and that should concern every citizen in this county. When these rezonings come forward, they are presented as isolated decisions, detached from a long-term plan that was supposed to guide every board and every administration. However, a county cannot build trust with its residents if it changes our course without transparency, justification, and community involvement. When we abandon our guiding plan, we also abandon the public confidence that came with it. Another major issue attached to these rezonings is the way projected tax revenue is discussed. We routinely hear about the potential revenue that a large industrial project may bring, but there is never clarity in how these numbers are calculated, whether they are guaranteed or whether they are even sustainable. If a project is promoted based on economic benefit, then the public deserves to know the following. Are these revenue projections locked in for life of the facility? Will any abatements, incentives, or tax structures reduce the amount the county actually receives? And will residents have access to real, verified figures, not estimates, not assumptions, but the actual revenue they can expect? You cannot ask the public to trust a financial promise without showing them the math behind it. I'm going to kind of go off script right there. I work blue-collar people. Sometimes they can't read a tape measure, but I guarantee you on Thursday they can tell me whether or not their paycheck's right or not. Now, this concern is directly tied to the water usage and stormwater runoff, critical issues that should never be an afterthought in any rezoning decision. Large industrial facilities can place significant strain on water supply, water infrastructure, and downstream properties. They can alter drainage patterns, increase the volume and the velocity of runoff, and put surrounding landowners at risk, erosion, flooding, and contamination. Before any industrial rezoning is approved, the community deserves to see exactly how much water the facility plans to use, whether that water will come from the county infrastructure, private wells, or groundwater resources, how wastewater and processed discharge will be handled and monitored, and what protections will be in place to ensure surrounding properties of which were zoned under 2035 expectations are not harmed. These are not unreasonable questions. They are basic responsibilities of governance. Commissioners, no project, no matter how large, modern, or lucrative it appears, should move forward without strict alignment with our long-term plan. Transparent financial disclosures, getting a little dry in the mouth, and thoroughly vetted environmental safeguards. The citizens of this county expect you to protect not only our economic future, but also our land, our water, and our neighborhoods, and the commitments this county has already made. Vision 2035 was developed in collaboration with the community. It should not be discarded without the community. I urge you to bring the county back in line with its own plan to engage residents fully and openly, and to ensure that every rezoning is rooted in transparency, accountability, and respect for the people who live here. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was in your statement last week, you talked about misinformation. Mr. Chairman, I know more about data centers. I know more about power generation. I know more about power distribution than you read last week. This week I had a conversation with the largest contractor building data centers in the United States. I had a conversation with a contractor who fabricates the data bank that houses the the GPUs. Just even in those, they're going from 6-inch pipe now to 10-inch pipe because of the power demand and the wattage demand. There's a lot of information that's out there and a lot of information that a lot of people in this community have tried to provide to you and other members of this commission, and you've ignored, and you've called it misinformation. We, as citizens, are not dumb, we're not stupid, we're not uneducated. We are wise about what's going on, we are wise about what we see happening, and I hope you will listen to what Mr. Alan Wyatt had to say this evening and have a meeting. Thank you.
On to the executive session. I believe Vice Chairman,
It's mine.
Commissioner Merlier, I believe you have the first.
Yes, sir. I make a motion to approve a one-time merit payment of 2.5% for all eligible employees.
Second.
This is the annual 2.5, actually, the merit is determined by the commission each year. This year, the commission has determined it to be 2.5%. These are for employees that have scored at least 3 on their evaluations. Anybody below that will not receive a merit. Any employees on probation will also not receive a merit payment.
Got any questions? Motion is second on the floor. All in favor? Motion carries.
Item M2A, I make a motion to accept the donation of temporary easement from RGG Properties LLC, parcel 061-084E, and Chamberlain Partners, parcels 0611863 and 0612153 for the Chastain Place Turn Lane Project.
Second.
This is the right-of-way required to construct a left turn lane for Chastain Place on William Few Parkway, just below the Greenway Trail Crossing. I believe the contract's already been approved by this body.
Questions? There's a motion is second on the floor. All raise your right hand.
Item M2B, I make a motion to accept the donation of temporary easement and/or permanent easement from Mill Branch Investments LLLP, parcel 062085, and Branch Springs Development LLC, parcels 062085S and 062085T, for the Horizon South Parkway and Chamberlain Road Connector Project.
We've been working on the design for the Horizon South Chamberlain Road Connector. We're going to extend the road from Canterbury Farms at Chamberlain Road over to Horizon South. We'll also connect to Gateway Boulevard. This is the donation of the property from these three companies here. I believe we're 50% complete. We have 4 more to go to have that project wrapped up. We hope to have it out to bid in the next 30 days.
Questions? Motion is second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Item M2C, I make a motion to approve $60,700 to Amber, Cindy, and Chris Marks, parcel 060058, $28,000 to Joseph Herring, parcel 060045, $75,000 to Bryant Couch, parcel 067024, $95,800 to Kay Allen, parcel 067020A, and $38,800 to Charles and Kay Allen, parcel 067017F, to obtain right-of-way and/or easements for the Hereford Farm Road widening project.
These are standard acquisitions. This gets us to 93% complete for this project. Hope to have it out to bid next summer.
Questions? Motion is second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Item M2D, I make a motion to approve $550,000 for relocation and $281,908.24 for replacement housing supplement to Laura and Frank Peasy, parcel 06714008, to obtain right-of-way and/or easements for the Hereford Farm Road widening project and to annul the action that was approved on October 15th, 2024.
So this is a relocation purchase that we're having to do for the Hereford Farm project. We had an option with these folks originally where we were not taking the house. However, due to some redesign, we decided that we did have to take the entire house. We are using federal dollars for this, so we have to follow federal relocation laws, so we have to pay them for their existing house. Plus, we have to make up the difference for their new house. We have difference in interest rates, difference in mortgage payments. We have to cover that cost. This makes those folks whole.
Questions? Motion and second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. One more motion needs to be made.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We are